Ya, terima kasih Punca. Bata Group sekarang memiliki nahkoda baru, Alexis Nasard. Dia memegang kendali Bata Group sejak 4 April 2016. Alexis Nasard dipercaya untuk membangkitkan bisnis Bata di tengah peta persaingan industri retail global yang semakin sengit. Dan kini sudah hadir di Studio 2 CNN Indonesia, CEO Bata Group, Alexis Nasard. Halo Mr. Alexis, thank you for coming and welcome.
Thank you.
Alexis, you've been Bata Group CEO since April 2016. So how has everything going?
Very well. It's an exciting industry. It's an exciting time to be in this industry. Many people are moving in the middle class in many parts of the world. People have more disposable income to spend on discretionary items, things which are fun and necessary. So it's a great time to be in the industry. It's a good time to be at Bata.
Yeah, and we know exactly that you've been in Heineken and P&G, which is the big corporation ever. So now, what Bata means for you?
You know, Bata is a great entity in a sense that it's a brand that brings to people surprising affordability. Now, what do I mean by surprising affordability? We all want to be smart shoppers, but we all want to buy the most beautiful and cool stuff for ourselves. And this is a company that has done that since 1894 and will continue doing that in the future, and we're very committed to that. Because in the end, what do we offer? We offer comfort and we offer pleasure, and these are very meaningful things.
All right, and every leader has specific characters to boost corporation target. So what are yours? Specific characters.
Well, characters, okay. So first is...
like a set of belief.
Okay. Well, I have very firm beliefs. One of them is belief in creativity. You know, as the world economy becomes less dynamic than it has been in the past 30 years, generating growth is not going to be as easy, right? You have to keep fueling consumer desire to generate revenue. You have to be a lot more targeted on cost. So I have a great belief in the power of creativity to create sources of revenue and consumer desire. I have a lot of belief in discipline. I have a very unscientific way to frame it, which is to say the difference between disciplined and undisciplined corporations is 5 points of margin going forward. And I believe in doing what you're selling and living what you're selling, in a sense that...
Doing and living what you're selling, so it's totally different for you.
Well, yes. I mean, yes and no. I mean, wearing the stuff that you sell is important. Doing the activities that you ask your consumers to do is important, and living through your values is important. And I think a corporation which has clear ambitions, clear choiceful strategies, a set of beliefs, good execution, and lives by its beliefs is going to be very successful.
Will do some of innovation for the Bata products forward?
Absolutely. I mean, in our revenue growth... Can
I get some of the information? You have information for now.
I'll give you some glimpses.
All right.
I'll give you some glimpses. The footwear category has had innovation only lately. If you think about it, it's only in the past 10 to 15 years that the footwear industry has had some sort of innovation. It started with athletic footwear, but increasingly it is moving also to day-to-day footwear and also to formal footwear. If you think about how important is a pair of shoes to your lifestyle, it's hugely important. It's your comfort, it's your well-being day in and day out. So innovation has a very big importance. We actually have set out a whole set of resources to develop innovation, particularly focused on the area of comfort. Because what we want to eliminate in consumers' mind in that apparent inconsistency between design, style, and comfort. Because people think I either can be sexy or I can be comfortable. And we want to demonstrate to consumers, particularly women, that it is possible to be sexy and comfortable at the same time.
At the same time?
At the same time.
I'd love to. I'd love to know that.
Stay tuned.
And talking about innovation, we also talk about technology, of course.
Correct.
So how you will use the technology, which is running so fast until this second, by that innovation, technology, and of course, like you said, comfortable and of course stylish too at the same time.
Yes. You have to start with understanding the consumer. The fashion retail industry has had many qualities and has done very well. in the past 20 to 30 years, but consumer understanding has not been as thorough as what I've been used to in the fast-moving consumer goods industry. You mentioned P&G and you mentioned Heineken. I think by properly understanding the consumer, her needs and her experiences, we will be able to develop the technologies that actually meet that need. For example, I go back to what I mentioned a little bit earlier. Women everywhere in the world are profoundly convinced that they cannot be comfortable and sexy at the same time. Once we identify that insight, then we start looking at everything that is available internally and externally from an R&D standpoint and package it together in attractive, cool shoes that people want. And more importantly than that is that we have to be able to mention that and to communicate that. Because as one of my previous bosses said to me when I was a young brand manager, he said, it's good to be good, it's better if somebody else knows about it. So once we come up with these interesting technologies, we have to be able to talk about them in a simple and easy way for consumers.
Easy way for consumers. And I know, Zeki, that you're studying us as consumers very good, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah, with the special team.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
How I can see the reflection of that study by the Bata products?
Well, the product says it all. When you are in a business like ours, you can make all the nice speeches that you want and write all the nice papers that you like. If the product doesn't live up to what you're promising, your promise is empty. So what we hope is that our superior consumer understanding, which translates into technological design solutions and retail solutions, because remember, we don't just develop product and brands, but we're also a retailer. It is when you see that delivered at the point of purchase, which is the key moment of truth, is when we would have done our homework.
All right, very nice. And we're going to continue our discussion, but we have to take a break for a second.
Sure.
Dan kami masih akan melanjutkan kembali perbincangan berikut. Tetaplah bersama kami di CNN Indonesia Bisnis. Anda kembali bersama kami di special interview dan saya masih bersama Bata Group CEO Alexis Nasard. And Mr. Alexis, a lot of priorities, I'm sure. By facing the challenging market during the retailers. But what are your priorities in Bata to make things better?
I like trilogies, so we have 3 priorities, which are our strategic focus areas. The first one is what I call product is king. We have to be able to offer cool shoes that people want, which is not the same thing as offering basic shoes that people need. And we want to combine in our shoe development the notion of style and comfort, because as I said earlier, we profoundly believe that sexiness and comfort can go together, and we will be delivering that. So this is why we call that strategy product is king. The number 2 strategy is what I call inspiring retail. The retail world is moving quickly. It is competitive, it is tough, but it continues to grow and it'll continue growing. As we talked in the break, I don't believe in the death of brick and mortar. Brick and mortar will always have a role. Fun, fit, and service. You have more fun when you go shopping in a brick and mortar store with friends, with colleagues, because it's entertaining, because you feel better about yourselves, because you experiment. Yeah. Second is fit. You don't take risks. You try things. You make sure that they fit you physically and that you look good in them. And the last one, you get service and you get advice. Online offers you comfort and convenience, time saving, and increasingly saving as well, because you can browse online much easier across various alternatives, right? Now, the winners in that segment in retail in the future are those who can synchronize both strategies correctly.
So Bata will combine that both?
Absolutely. Okay. We already are, and we will do that even more in the future. But winning will be in synchronizing both, in making sure the online consumers utilizes your brick and mortar infrastructure and vice versa. And the third priority is what I call marketing swagger. We have to make our marketing much sexier going forward, more appealing. We've been viewed for a long time as a family brand, and we increasingly want to appeal to women, which are the majority of the population in Indonesia. By the way, I was stunned to see that, 51.8%.
You're studying us.
Yes, I told you, we study all the time. So it's a majority of the population, and we have made the strategic choice as a company to be a branded fashion retailer focused on women.
Okay, and talking about offline stores, we got data over here that Bata has already a lot of offline stores. Here we are, we're going to look at this. It's a Pacific area. will it stay here? You will keep this market, stay with this, or you will do like you will expand it, become bigger market share forward?
We absolutely want to continue expanding. We are a global footwear company. I know many people in Indonesia think it's a local brand. It's not. We are a global company.
For truth, it is.
Yes. In a way, it's a compliment. So we are present in more than 70 countries. We are anchored in Europe, but we will continue expansion in promising markets, including Asia Pacific, and particularly countries like Indonesia that offer extremely positive indicators for future growth.
And remind about the rebalancing of a global market. You are right. I think you are in the right place, Asia Pacific,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So you will keep doing on that segment, on that area only, or you're going to make it bigger, like you can see, like United States or Canada or Russia.
Yeah, our growth strategy is going to be balanced. We want to grow in developed markets as well as in the developing markets. Each one has a different role to play. It's true that developing markets are growing faster, but if you look at Europe and you look at the United States and Canada, they still represent 46% of the world economy. So they still are not going to disappear anytime soon. So we will continue competing in developed markets as well as in developing markets, and Asia Pacific will definitely be a key focus area.
All right, and would we see, or would we can get the diversification of Bata products beside shoes?
Well, already today, we don't only sell shoes, right? We sell shoes, we sell accessories, and we sell also some apparel in some parts of the world. But our focus will remain shoes, and our anchor will remain shoes. We love shoes, and shoes are growing 4 to 6% around the world, and there is no reason for us to change that focus.
Don't you have like a special plan to make like a outfit or cosmetic or something like that? No?
Not for now.
Not for now.
For now, we are really determined to be a global player, winning and growing disproportionately in the footwear market. We will have accessories and other categories which are adjacent, but our focus will continue to be branded fashion footwear.
All right. And how do you capture the volatility of the global market, Mr. Alexis, as we see we are facing the impacts of Brexit, for example, and then the Fed fund rate, and then the shifting economy of China. It's not really easy, and that is one of the biggest market. So how do you capture the challenging market ahead?
Yeah. What's interesting is that in every age considers their age to be the most volatile. And volatility, unfortunately, is something that is part of our vocabulary. It's going to be part of the world.
Part of your vocabulary.
Absolutely.
Oh,
and it's going to be part of the world.
Yes.
It's going to be part of the world economy going forward. Not one single forecast has ever been concretized. So we have to be able to plan in a diligent and robust way, but always have the ability to navigate on site. Because if we lose that ability to navigate on site, we accumulate risks. And there are different ways to de-risk volatility. One of them is to have a balanced footprint around the world. You know, I mentioned a minute ago the balance between developed and developing markets. But there are also other ways to do that, is to play with the different margins that you have with your products to make sure that you have enough margin for error and for mistakes. Another way is to keep experimenting and trying. You know, one of the things we've been talking passionately about this morning with the Indonesian team is how do we experiment with different retail concepts around the world. We have to keep learning, and we have to keep adjusting to new realities. And I can keep going on with operational measures to de-risk, but I won't bore you with them because that's less interesting than the stuff I've talked about a little earlier.
All right, but Mr. Alexis, has Bata got impacts of the Brexit? Of course, it's just a couple of months, but has Bata feel it already?
You know, I think Brexit was a catastrophic decision and a typical example of misusage of democracy. 90% of people voted on an issue they didn't profoundly understand. That is the issue with that vote. But I'm not a politician, I'm not an economist, and you don't have me for that.
I have you for business. So how is it for your business?
I don't think anybody will really feel the full impact of Brexit before 3 years from now. Until then, it's going to be all speculations, people getting worried, people calming down, and you see that in the exchange rate of the pound to the euro and to the dollar. But before actually the proper mechanism of Brexit is actually started, which it hasn't yet, by the way, the UK is still part of the EU today, technically, you won't feel the full impact. because what you feel today is mostly what people believe that impact will be down the road. So it is mostly a forecast, a combination of forecasts and nothing more, nothing less. But as of 3 years from now, I think we're going to start feeling it. And it's not
3 years from now.
I think as of 3 years from now, we're going to start feeling it in its full, because this is when you start seeing really the impact beyond currencies, on trade balances, on employment, on R&D collaboration, on academic collaboration, and there is a whole array of issues that are involved in that divorce that most of the people who voted for it or against it were not aware of.
So what is your strategy during that 3 years ahead?
For us, this is part of volatility. You know, as I mentioned earlier, Europe is 26% of the world economy, and Brexit will affect Europe. Will not only affect the UK, by the way, we do not have a business in the UK today, but it'll affect to an extent Europe. And one way to do that is to use all the de-risking measures we've talked about and not be over-dependent on any particular part of the world at any point in time. Hence our presence in emerging markets, hence our presence in Asia Pacific and in places like Indonesia. And also the other dimension that we have to look at is consumer pricing, gross margins, testing, understanding also how price sensitivity works with consumers, which is a whole interesting area that the retail industry hasn't looked at a lot in the past, and we're going to be increasingly looking at in the future. Because when the economy doesn't go very well, consumers start becoming much more price sensitive, even when they don't have tangible reasons to be price sensitive. So we have to incorporate that element also in the way we calculate, we forecast, and we plan our business.
Price sensitive. Very interesting. But we will continue again after this commercial break. Dan kami masih akan kembali perbincangan bersama Alexis Nasard. Tetaplah bersama kami di Special Interview. Anda kembali bersama kami di Special Interview dan saya masih bersama Bata Group CEO ada Alexis Nasard dan kita kembali melanjutkan Mr. Alexis. Retail sector is one of the sexiest market, especially in Indonesia. Our consumption household can become one of the most important thing for economic growth for Indonesia, more than 50%. Very, very promising.
Yes.
So how is your outlook for retail sector in terms of course, shopping shoes?
The global retail sector is forecast to grow between 3 and 5% in the next 10 years. So despite all the closures and openings and mergers and acquisitions, etc., it's still a vibrant sector. And when I talk about retail, I always include brick and mortar and e-commerce. I don't make that academic distinction because consumer is a consumer and our role is to service our consumer profitably wherever she chooses to shop. So our outlook is positive, but it is increasingly difficult, competitive. The consumer is increasingly demanding. And the tastes are shifting ever more rapidly, and the availability of alternatives is increasing all the time. So it is growing. We are positive about it, but we have to be always mobilized to continue to be competitive in that shifting market. And the same is in Indonesia. I agree. I think your statistics are the right ones. This is a critical sector in retail, and for us, Indonesia is very important. Why is Indonesia important?
That's what I'm asking. I want to ask that. How is Indonesia positioned for Bata International?
It is a very important business. As I mentioned, it's more than 3% of our global turnover. And it is a market that has lots of things going for it. It is.
And you got loyal customers here.
Absolutely. It's a country with
one of the legends.
So we have 260 million consumers, population growing between 1.8 to 2% per year. Every year, 3 million consumers are moving into the middle class. I mean, that is massive.
The potential market is right on your face.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
And the forecast for the footwear market is to grow 10% per year for the next 5 years. So when you look at demographics, when you look at economic growth plus 5%, when you look at the footwear market, and we look at our position, we have 4.1% market share. We are the #1 footwear company in Indonesia. We are pretty well positioned to exploit that growth.
So like you said, 3 to 4% ahead to retail sectors. So how about the Bata outlook ahead? The increasing or the growth of Bata, how will it be?
We want to outperform the market in the future because that is the only way we can keep our consumer base rejuvenate our consumer base, and expand our consumer base. What is really important today is that we make sure that our target consumer, and her name is Angela, if you're interested.
Angela, okay.
Exactly. That Angela not only buys the products she's familiar with at Bata, but she starts buying the more fancy shoes that she normally would buy elsewhere than Bata in the future, because that allows us also to grow with the existing consumers in addition to adding more consumers to our global base, which is a more dependable way to grow because she's already coming to our stores.
All right. And I have ever gone abroad, and I can see that the design between Bata shoes abroad is not similar within Indonesia. In Indonesia, it's quite stagnant, really flat design. Will you make it a better, or will you make like a more stylish product of Bata here in Indonesia, just like I saw abroad?
Yes, yes, and yes. Today, our collection is very decentralized because the way the company has been managed historically has been a very decentralized way. And to a large extent, consumers across the world are not all exactly the same. But as you move up the ladder of income and education, consumers start looking more alike around the world. An affluent lawyer in Jakarta and an affluent lawyer in Chicago will be more similar than an agricultural person in the heartland
because
of the US.
Because of the globalization.
Exactly, and education and common media like CNN and other things that people consume. So what we want to move to is a core collection which will remain local, and we shouldn't move away from that because it's our bread and butter, but increasingly add global design, which are European inspired, and have these designs all over the world because we want to cater to that consumer that you're talking about, including people like yourselves.
But how about the price? Will it become higher, more expensive, or you just keep the price just, the Bata pricing strategy?
We want to be worth it. We want you to go into the store and say it's more expensive, but it's worth it.
More expensive?
But it's worth it.
Okay, I'm curious how expensive it would be. But it's quite personal, but I would like to know this time, what bring you here, Mr. Alexis, in Indonesia?
As we talked in the break, I've been to Indonesia before, but that was my honeymoon, and that was quite a while ago. It's the first time in Jakarta, that is true. The reason I'm in Indonesia together with senior members of my executive committee is because of the huge importance Indonesia has in our current business, but more importantly in our future business. We rely a lot on countries like Indonesia for our future growth, and we are extremely committed to serving the needs of consumers in Indonesia going forward.
Will we see like a big planning ahead in Indonesia from Bata?
You're going to see a lot more things coming from Bata.
Like factory or something?
I cannot divulge specific plans, but you're going to see a lot more activity from Bata in the future, which is related to retail and other things. But more importantly, we really hope that you're going to see much cooler shoes coming to the shelves in a store near you.
So it's going to be totally different ahead?
It's going to be an evolution. We're not going to throw the baby away with the bathwater. As I said earlier, we don't want to be the company we're not, but we want to be gradually evolving our offering in the premium tier to attract a broader array of consumers. But many of our classic shoes that people are used to and they love to buy and are loyal to are going to remain in our collection.
Okay, last but not least, Mr. Alexis, I love to ask about this to my guest. Can you describe yourself in 3 words as the new leader of Bata CEO International?
That's always a difficult one. It's much easier to ask my people to talk about me than to talk about myself.
But I'm sure you have the answers.
I mean, you know, I'm ambitious for the business and for the people. I'm determined, pretty disciplined in general, and I'm informal. I'm not a formal person. I mean, I like to have fun on the job. You know, we sell shoes. We sell something which is nice and pleasant. And there is no reason, even if you're doing a great job, to take yourself too seriously. So, yeah, that's the best description I can give.
Okay, ambitious, disciplined, and informal.
Yes.
Mr. Alexis Nasard, CEO of Bata International, thank you for been here. Thank you for coming to CNN Indonesia Business for a special interview. And for Bata, keep showing the word. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me. Much pleasure.